Hi, I'm Lauren, Senior Design Technologist in the Alexa Skills Kit User Experience team. And later, I'll be joined by my colleague, Pranav. Today, we're going to talk about how you can make even more compelling skill experiences with our new tool offerings, so that you can rapidly experiment and innovate for your customers. We're excited to talk about the new tools and resources to help you create and fine-tune richer experiences for your customers. We're going to first discuss how you can easily discover features for skill development and use the Alexa Learning Lab to find multimodal tutorials to raise the customer experience of your skill. Later, we'll look at tools for skill quality improvement with dialog testing and skill quality coach. And finally, we'll look at how you can quickly experiment with the impact of your customer experience features through A/B testing. So let's get started. We will be walking you through an example journey with these new tools. Let's say we have a skill builder named Jill who wants to create a new skill. She's been hearing about various ways to scaffold a custom Alexa skill because of Alexa Live, most recently hearing about multimodality. So how might we help Jill browse and discover the latest best practices around multimodality? Well, we have a new speedy search feature that can onboard her to learning about the different skill technologies. Before, our search feature would only look at content within Amazon's technical documentation. Now, with Search As You Type functionality, Jill can see results across GitHub, YouTube, Alexa, and App Store sites simultaneously. This will really help her learn about the different features and options to get started. Here, we see that Jill has started to type in multimodality. The new search experience indexes across the developer console, GitHub, YouTube, and more to surface relevant resources that wouldn't have shown up before. Jill knows that her customers desire to have more interactivity with their skills beyond voice. Now we'll talk about how Jill will discover and exercise the latest multimodal implementation best practices in order to bolster her skill. Alexa Learning Lab is a place where skill builders like Jill can learn how to build Alexa skills. Developers can learn the knowledge required to build Alexa skills and practice writing code and acquire real-time feedback on their written code. With Learning Lab, we anticipate developers can get up to speed quickly. The Alexa Learning Lab features a learning catalog where skill builders can browse and view the available learning resources from Amazon and third-party partners, and unique technical e-learning experience where developers can not only engage in learning, but also practice what they learn. From her search, Jill discovered the Learning Lab. Jill looks through the catalog of learning resources available on the Alexa Learning Lab and sees that there are many trainings, tutorials, workshops, code samples from Amazon and third parties available. She discovers the Build Visually Rich Learning Experience learning path. She thinks that could be an option to learn how to add visuals to her voice-only skill. She reads the details of the course and she's excited to try. She clicks on Start Learning to get started. Jill is taken to a Learning Lab experience where she goes through the steps involved to master adding visuals to her voice skills. The learning path starts with fundamentals of Alexa Presentation Language, APL, and takes her through the journey of adding visuals. As Jill starts her learning journey, the concepts are presented using interactive techniques. She sees text, videos, questions, and other techniques used to help her understand the concepts. At the end of the module, she could also take a self-assessment to check her knowledge and obtain feedback on areas where she needs to focus on. As Jill progresses through her learning session, she discovers a coding sandbox and instructions to practice the concepts that she just learned. She follows the instructions and writes code in the coding sandbox. As she writes code and submits, the coding sandbox analyzes her code and provides real-time guidance on her written code. She also sees that the built-in simulator displays the result of her code. She makes changes to the code and watches her changes reflected immediately in the simulator. She also notices that when she makes a mistake, she can observe where the error is and receives guidance on how to fix it. She continues to engage with the code editor to practice the concepts she's learned. After she is completed, she progresses to the next module in the learning path. Jill continues to learn the various concepts in the learning path. She gains more confidence on adding visuals to her voice-only skill. After completing all modules, she now has the proficiency and the techniques to add visuals to her voice-only skill. After completion, she also observes other advanced courses recommended to her to continue her learning journey. After a couple of rounds using the Learning Lab, Jill feels confident in integrating the APL code into her skill Lambda function and testing out her end-to-end experience. Now, whether she updates the skill today or 3 different skills over the next year, Jill has the know-how to delight her customers with visual experiences. We just saw how Search and the Alexa Learning Lab are great mechanisms for Jill to get ramped up with the latest developer experience best practices. However, speech is complex, and there are thousands of ways to interact with Alexa. How can we help Jill anticipate such variations and make her skill more accurate? I'll have Pranav answer this.
Thanks, Lauren. I'm Pranav Rai, Senior Product Manager at Alexa Skills. Skill developers, such as Jill, often ask us, what are the best practices to support vast variations of customer request patterns? The biggest concern is to make sure that the hero use cases work well. Today, thousands of skill developers use Alexa Simulator to test their skills, or use NLU evaluation tool for automatic batch testing. However, testing through the simulator can be a very manual process. An NLU evaluation tool allows evaluation at an utterance level, that is matching utterance to a relevant intent or slot. What if you want to evaluate a more sophisticated scenario, like booking a movie ticket or ordering food on Alexa, which requires several turns to meet a customer goal? How can we automate such test cases? We are now announcing the Dialog Testing Tool to enable skill developers, such as Jill, create dialogue-level test cases with ease. The Dialog Testing Tool API helps you create test sets that are easy to write and robust to execute. You also get a detailed report around failure cases. One of the biggest challenges in automation of dialogues is our inability to handle skill response variations that lead to false failures, which often results in halting of a testing session. The Dialog Testing Tool API is intelligent enough to keep the conversation going even when the skill responses vary. So the Dialog Testing Tool API is intelligent enough to handle skill response variations and reduce false failure cases. The 2 most common variations are handling similar meaning responses from the skill. This is especially common when you're using Alexa Presentation Language for Audio, APLA, and handling variations in slot filling order, especially when using Alexa Conversations. Suppose you have an Alexa Conversation skill for ordering pizza. You can define a happy dialog path to fill slots in a certain order. But what if these slots are filled in a different order? That is, instead of asking for crust type first, we ask for cheese type. We don't want such cases to incorrectly fail, right? The Dialog Testing Tool will look at the previous response to intelligently feed the next user input. Sounds exciting, right? Let's see how it all comes together.
So let's order some pizza with Dialog Testing API. In this example, we start with opening the skill, then add a pizza, then filling slots such as pizza size, crust type, and cheese quantity, and then finally placing the order. Now let's look at the test set JSON. First utterance will invoke the skill. Here developer wants to check the Lambda endpoint, the launch request intent, and the welcome message. The second utterance is to add pizza. Developer doesn't want to check anything and leaves it empty. For third to fifth utterance, skill developer is using dynamic slot elicitation. That is, cheese quantity, pizza size, and crust type can be elicited in any order. For the last utterance, we want to check the APLA response template. And finally, for the dialog expectation, we want to check if the right API action was called. So now let's first clean this up and then execute this automatic test set. So what we really want to test here is how dialog testing can sequentially feed inputs for simulation. Here we have a test set ID. Let's open and check out the results. So for the first utterance, we launched the right Lambda endpoint. We launched the skill, and we got the welcome message back. For the second utterance, we had add a pizza. Here, Alexa responds with, what size would you want? Now let's go back to dynamic slot elicitation where we had extra cheese, small size, and thin crust as three different options. Since Alexa responds with what size do you want, the dialog testing tool feeds small. The next utterance is what kind of crust do you want? The dialog testing tool responds with thin crust. Finally, we have the cheese type, and the dialog testing tool responds with extra cheese. The last utterance on this thread in order. Here we see that the skill used the right APLA template. And finally, for the dialog expectation, we see that the right API was called to place the order. Since we used the right API call to place the order, the overall dialog here was a success, as we can see. The dialog testing tool is intelligent and is available in beta.
Now that Jill has published her skill and after a few testing experiments, she's feeling pretty good about her skill. But she's not satisfied and wants ideas on how she can further improve her skill and get more customers. How can she learn about her skill's quality? Developers often ask us about how they can continue to improve on skill quality. Let's see how we can help Jill. We are excited to announce the Skill Quality Coach, your companion for all quality improvements. Skill Quality Coach declutters your skill improvement plan and simplifies what actions you should be taking next. By analyzing thousands of popular skills across all skill categories, we have identified key features that are frequently leveraged to delight Alexa customers. Skill Quality Coach evaluates your skill and generates a skill quality score. It also generates specific and curated recommendations that will help you improve your score. So a natural question is, how are we calculating skill quality score? Skill quality score is made up of two parts. One part is related to how sophisticated your skill design is. For example, if you have implemented features that make your skill delightful for customers. We also look at how actively invested you are in keeping your skill updated and keeping the content fresh. Finally, for the second part, we look at customer experience and feedback. We look at implicit feedback in the form of how often customers return to your skill and explicit feedback in the form of what are they saying about your skill. Combining skill design and customer feedback, we have the skill quality score. Skill Quality Coach gives you an array of personalized recommendations to iterate on your skill design. We have 4 big pillars of skill quality score: how personalized your skill is, how rich your skill responses are, accuracy of your voice model, and health of your skill endpoint. As you make improvements to your skill, you can see improvements to your skill quality score. As announced in Keynote, Skill Quality Score is an integral part of Alexa's Skill Developer Accelerator Program, SDAP, and we want Skill Quality Coach to be your companion in this journey of skill improvement. And now, let's go back and help Jill out.
Here is the Skill Quality Coach, your constant companion to improve skill quality. By analyzing thousands of skills, we've identified key customer experience features that delight our customers and drive skill quality. So let's dive into the Skill Quality Coach. On the Alexa Developer Analytics console, there's a new addition called Skill Quality Coach. It is split into 2 sections: Skill Quality Score and Recommended Insights. The Skill Quality Score is calculated based on your skill design and how customers react to your skill in the form of skill ratings and customer retention. You can see that for Jill's skill, her skill quality score has improved over the last 7 days and her skill is doing really well with an SQS of 4.1. But how can she further improve her skill? The recommendations that help you improve your skill quality score are called insights. You can look at the top 4 insights and have the full list of insights available in the table below. Each recommendation is specific and curated based on your skill design. For example, for Jill's skill, we have recommendations to improve her skill responses with the adoption of multimodal, or make her skill more personalized with account linking, or gracefully handle utterances not meant for her skill using the Amazon fallback intent. Each recommendation has approximate effort estimation so that you can plan your improvements accordingly. Now, as you go through these insights, we want to learn from you which ones you liked and which ones you disagreed with. If you like an insight, please give us a reason for upward. And similarly, give us a reason for downward in case you disagree with. Here, Jill notices a recommendation to update her upsell message for skill subscription. It says that Jill's current upsell message is verbose and leads to customer drop-off. Jill finds it interesting and decides to upvote. Skill Quality Coach is now available in beta for eligible custom skills in ENUS.
Now, as Jill makes changes to her upsell message, how can she validate it has helped her get more subscribers and reduce skill friction? I request Lauren to share key aspects of skill experimentation.
Naturally, when we make products, we may have internal or team debates about how we want our customers to interact with their product features. Jill is eager to resolve the uncertainty she has around certain upsell messages in her skill. Let's learn about a new experimentation tool that can help her do just that. As you may already know, an A/B test allows you to take a side-by-side comparison of features in your product to make an informed decision by simultaneously providing two experiences to your customers and providing data on how those experiences are received. We're excited to introduce endpoint-based A/B testing to help skill builders increase customer engagement and conversions. In endpoint-based A/B testing, you only use a single version of a live skill to run your A/B test. You define your control and treatment experiences by adding conditional statements to the skill code. A/B testing is effective because it complements an existing testing framework. Currently, you can test your skills while they're in development using the testing tools on the developer console. You can also get feedback from beta users or your friends and family on a development stage of the skill. However, with A/B testing, we are introducing a new way to get data on skill quality from actual customers. High-confidence, data-driven decision-making eliminates guesswork and lets you prove or disprove your hypothesis. Your customers will receive some key benefits. Only a small set of actual customers participate in your experiments, thus reducing the risk of all of your customers being exposed to a potentially suboptimal experience. On the contrary, this ensures that a vast majority of your customers observe the most optimal experience. You do not need to set up your skill in staging or beta tests. These experiments can be performed using live customer data, thus obtaining real-time response. This real traffic can also help address cases you may not consider during quality assurance testing. You can observe changes to customer engagement, retention, and conversion metrics to improve these aspects of your skill code. This tool allows skill builders to experiment with the different customer experiences and pick the best. With continuous data-driven improvement to skills, customers enjoy improved skill quality. A/B testing promotes rapid iterations with a high-quality experience. You can rapidly test multiple iterations with different smaller sets of customers, thus minimizing risk of the experiment impacting a large sample. Making rapid, continuous improvements to the skill will significantly improve the skill over time. Even if you're able to test new changes on a smaller set of customers, you cannot target a particular set of customers. Skill users are randomly selected for the experiment and randomly then assigned a control or treatment behavior. Skill builders only have access to aggregate metrics previously and comparison of the two sets. Thus, the privacy of the skill users is ensured. An example use case for A/B testing is playing around with your visual experiences. You can experiment with APL display and APL for audio. For APL display, you can experiment with the placement of images, animations, and other functions. For APL for audio, you can change the content of the audio and see if customers find it to be appealing. In this example, you can see that we have a control behavior that has audio which assumes the player knows how to play the game, and treatment behavior audio explains the rules on how to play the game. Depending on the outcome of the test, you can determine the optimal APL audio that will lead to increased customer engagement. For these use cases, you can use skill next day retention, skill utterances, and skill active days metrics to measure the success of the A/B testing on APL. So now, let's address Jill's dilemma around her in-skill purchase upsell messages and how A/B testing can help her. To demo, let's go over a use case where Jill has pizza ordering skill with an in-skill purchasing subscription, ISP, that offers perks like buying one large pizza, getting another free, and more. Jill is wondering if changing upsell messages would result in more ISP conversions. She is not confident enough to roll out the new upsell message to all customers and does not have the data to make a decision. She heard about endpoint-based A/B testing and thinks it is perfect to help her decide. Jill has created an experiment to understand if a new upsell message increases conversion. She's selected ISP metrics, and for now, she sets a traffic exposure to 0% because she wants to get her experiment set up and validate they are working the way she wants. Later, she can increase this to exposure tests to real customers. She updates the endpoint code to split the experience between control and treatment versions. Jill writes a conditional statement for her control and treatment experiments and returns the response. Jill has tested one of her experiments to make sure there are no errors before exposing to customers. You can see the pilot this test option here so Jill could test the new experience with her own device before implementing. After testing, Jill feels confident to expose the experiment to her customers. Jill starts the test. Now, the skills customers will be directed to the new experience as per Jill's traffic exposure configured. Let's say Jill wants to update the traffic exposure to 20% to include more customers in this new treatment. To do so, Jill clicks on the edit option from the drop-down and updates the traffic exposure. With traffic exposure at 20%, this means 10% of customers who are part of Jill's control treatment will get the old upsell message, and 10% of customers who are part of the T1 treatment will get the new upsell message. Now Jill will be able to see the impact of her changes in real customer settings. After 1 week, Jill wants to check the analytics of the experiment to see how her new treatment is performing. Jill clicks on the View Analytics option from the drop-down and selects an appropriate end date. Metrics here include percentage difference, confidence interval, and p-value. Percentage difference is the relative percent difference between the mean of Jill's T1 group and C group. Confidence interval shows the uncertainty associated with a given measurement of a parameter of interest. The more data we have, the less uncertainty an estimate of the parameter of interest should have. P-value, or probability value, is a number describing how likely it is that your data would have occurred by random chance, for example, that the null hypothesis is true. Jill's ISP purchases metrics for T1 have a percentage difference greater than 0, and p-value less than 0.05 is color-coded as purple, which means there is an upward trend in ISP purchases, so T1 is performing well. Using this information, Jill can see that the ISP purchases have increased after changing the upsell message, so she decides to dial up the experience by selecting the complete option from the drop-down menu. Now, with no additional effort, Jill's skill is updated for all of her customers with her more successful upsell message. Here are some things our customers have said after onboarding. One of our skill builders, Vocala, used the tool to test out prompts. It is impressive to see the decision they took based on A/B testing that resulted in 15% increase in paid conversions. We're also excited for our friends at Beto, who were using the tool with an APL test. They were able to set up an experiment in less than an hour and ran an experiment over multiple weeks, which in turn yielded a 7% increase in customer engagement. So now we've seen how Jill navigated a variety of tools to hone her craft as a skill builder. Today we talked about how you can easily discover features through the new search. You can now search across a variety of sources like GitHub and YouTube to find what you're looking for in one place. Easily boost your skill coding competency with the Alexa Learning Lab. Now you can learn and acquire real-time feedback in the code sandbox. Learn cool things like building richer multimodal experiences into your skills. And regression testing with dialogues. It's easier to diagnose the quality of your dialogues with this tool. You have automated dialogue testing to save you time with tedious testing. Improving skills through Skill Quality Coach. Now, for the first time, you have a quantifiable measurement of skill quality with impactful and customized insights to improve your skill. Experimenting with A/B testing. Now you can rapidly test multiple iterations of 2 skill experiences simultaneously with real customer data. Check out the tools that we talked about today: the Alexa Learning Lab, Dialog Testing Tool, Skill Quality Coach, and the A/B Testing Tool. We encourage all of our skill builders to be creative and experiment frequently to make the best customer experiences. We always appreciate hearing your feedback and giving us suggestions to improve your experience. Sign up to learn about these features. Thank you.